Hey everybody, this is Pastor Will here. I'm the spiritual formation pastor here at Infocus Church, and we're taking this opportunity, since we're not able to meet together, to provide you some devotional content here on our YouTube page to encourage you through the week. I encourage you to maybe find some ways to talk with people, to share with people, to build community during this time where we're not able to gather together corporately. There's a lot of different avenues you can do that through the technology we have available today, and I encourage you to not forsake meeting together even when it's hard. But today we're going to do a little devotional from our sermon series that we're going through. We're going to be looking at Genesis 12, verses 1 through 8. It says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." We're introduced here in this section of Genesis to the series of narratives about the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and his sons. And it's important to note through these stories how God chooses and calls people to be in relationship with him and to serve him. When we're introduced to Abraham, or Abram at this time, he's a pagan man living in a pagan land. He has lots of cattle, lots of livestock. He's got a very comfortable life. And God chooses Abraham not because he's righteous, not because he's qualified, not because he has a lot to offer or a great potential, but God chooses him solely because he has a plan to use him to bless the rest of the world. So Abraham is chosen by God because he is the person that God wants to choose. And this is a pattern we see continue to develop throughout the Old Testament, throughout Genesis and the generations to come. Second, we see that God calls Abram. God calls Abram to leave that which is comfortable to him, to leave his homeland and go to a place that God hasn't even told him what's there, what to expect, what is coming before him. So Abram is a middle-aged man with a lot of possessions, a big family. He's a successful man, and he's got a lot to risk by packing up everything and moving his entire family, his extended family, across this great distance to where God is calling him, this place he doesn't even know where God is calling him. But what we know is that God's call had a purpose. It was to bless the nations. You see, God's call is not about Abram. God doesn't call Abram necessarily for Abram. He calls him because Abram is the instrument by which he's going to reach the nations, and Abram, through this obedience, will be blessed. But God promises Abram, if he's obedient to the call, God will do the work to bless. So Abram's not responsible for having to be the blessing to all the nations. He doesn't have to come up with some great plan of how he's going to bless the nations. God says, if you'll obey me, I will do the work. And this is what it means to be called by God. God has plans to reach the nations. We are the instrument that God uses to reach the nations. And God wants to redeem and restore and call people into salvation, and we are the way that he does that. And so all we have to do is be obedient to what God has called us to do. So the application for us today is that God calls us according to his plans and his purpose. And like Abram, we have a choice to either to be obedient to the call of God or to disobey the call of God. We've been given an opportunity to be a great blessing to the nations. And all we have to do is be obedient. So I hope this meets you where you are today. I want to encourage you to pray to God, to ask him how you can serve him, how you can be obedient, what he's calling you to do in response to this week's message. And we ask that you would just continue to be a blessing to those around you and those in your community.